Hi, Zvika. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much. How are you?
Wow, I'm doing well. Super excited about our chat today. You've been doing so much, Zvika. So maybe for the listeners who don't know you yet, let's start probably from your background, right? And your experience, and tell us who you are and what you're doing and working on these days.
Sure, it's a pleasure. So happy to be here. I am 44 years old. I live in Ra'anana, which is a town close to Tel Aviv in Israel. Originally from Jerusalem. I'm married to Maya, and I have three children: Gili, Dani, and Yali. So these are the most important facts in my
Important to
background.
start.
And
Sure,
in the end, everything relates to your sources, right?
sure.
Anyway, born and raised in Jerusalem. After the military service, I went to the Israeli long trip abroad. Came back, went to law school. Was very interested in the legal studies. I thought that I'm going to be either a judge or a law professor. After a few years, the academic period was very interesting and very tempting, but after the internship and a few years in the practice as a lawyer, I decided that it's a good background, but not for the rest of my life, and therefore I was looking for an opportunity. Actually, before Shufersal, I was an investigator in the Israeli Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the authorities that is in charge of the audit and the legal enforcement of the enforcement of the law of the securities law and capital markets legal aspects such as inside
Hmm.
information and other frauds. So I had a totally different occupation and background than what I did in the last decade or more than a decade. After 3 years as an investigator, I decided that it's interesting, but again, I like to be in the doing side, less in the observing side or in the auditing side. And I joined Shufersal very accidentally or in a serendipity way. I just was introduced to Itzik Aberkorn, who then was just appointed as the new CEO of Shufersal. I'm talking about the beginning of 2012, which is more than 12 years ago. He was looking for an chief of staff or an executive assistant with a background from law and capital markets, and I was apparently a good fit for that. And we met. By the way, the one that introduced me to him was his daughter, who I was a friend from law school from a few years ago. So here are some, the serendipity and how
Nice.
things are developed. And I began my role in Shufersal as a chief of staff. I was in charge of supporting the CEO office and with all strategy work, etc. We were mainly focused then. It was just after the big social protest in Israel, which was around the cost of living and the high prices of, especially of the consuming goods and especially food, which is the most basic
Mhm.
consumer goods, right? And we were very much focused on price reductions, on competition, on the very floor management of the stores, of the supermarket stores of Shufersal, which was by then mainly a grocery brick and mortar company. It means it was mainly supermarkets in various formats, various sizes of stores, and discount format, urban format, express format, and online almost didn't exist by then. Private label, many things that we have developed in the last decade were either didn't exist or were just in the very beginning. So that was our focus during those days, and in the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, we have started to deploy a new strategy, which was, I would say, was mainly around customer centricity, private label, online development, and supply chain, or let's say a controlled supply chain, which was mainly which were the main four pillars of the program. And I was very much involved in this whole orchestrating of this plan, and we have started to develop the whole notion of customer focus, customer service, experience management, etc. And it was totally aligned with the development of the online and the private label, which made us from a regular retailer, which is just let's say a mediator between supplier or producer and customer. We became kind of a
Mm.
supplier or a producer by ourselves. And so therefore you have to know how to manage relationship with consumers, right? And on the other end, online, unlike physical stores, it's a totally different story, and experience management becomes much more relevant than in the regular store, which is mostly around let's say location and prices, I would say. So I took the responsibility on the whole notion of customer management, and I became the first chief customer officer of Shufersal and a member of the executive board of the company. It was in 2016, and I was leading this field in the company until 2021, including the COVID pandemic times, which was very intense, and I will be happy to elaborate about it later. And in the mid 2021, I was appointed to be the first CEO of Shufersal Online, which was a spin-off of the e-commerce activity of Shufersal, which was very dominant in the company, into a new unit, a separated unit, as a separated P&L, which is very complicated to manage a separated P&L from the basic business of the company. And that's what I did from 2021 until the end of 2023, which is pretty recently, which I decided to resign to finish my role in Shufersal after 12 years, which were very intense, very
Mm.
exciting and fulfilling. So
Yeah.
it's a not in a nutshell.
Yes. Yes. So you are a lawyer turned investigator turned the CEO of the largest online grocery platform in Israel, right? So uh, let me digest this for a second. So how your lawyer experience and probably your investigation experience help you in the role?
I think a lot, because in the end, what does it mean to be a CEO? CEO means to be like a conductor, if you will, or to be the one who connects the dots, right? You don't have to be the best expert in any of the topics around the table, but you have to have a good ability and background to connect all the dots into one picture, one orchestra, one, let's say, perfect picture, almost perfect picture. And
Hmm.
therefore, I believe that if you have a diverse background and you have, let's say, connectivity in your mind, I mean, you know how to connect the dots from the marketing side, from the legal side, from the finance side, from the operation side, and not only you are a professor in marketing, okay, then you may be relevant for the e-com business, but in the end, if you don't have enough broad knowledge and experience and deep understanding of other domains, then you most likely won't be able to see the whole picture. So I believe that if you have to choose between people that have broad and wide experience with many fields that are related to this world. I'm not talking about taking someone who is a astronaut and let them manage e-com in grocery. Okay, but if it's related in a way, then I think that it's much more relevant than just taking someone that is a big professor, is a big expert in a very narrow field,
Yeah.
but has no background in other places.
Yes. Obviously, no one knows everything. Everyone comes from a specific background, but the whole idea is to be in a continuous learning mode, right? So I guess you had to learn all aspects of the business from supply chain, warehousing, right? We talk about your automated operation probably in this episode, and obviously on
Right.
the various marketing tactics. And I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shufersal today, I mean, it, the online sales are accounting to close to 20%
Correct.
of the overall business of the company, which is like really an amazing piece of data because the rest of the world is obviously operating. I assume it's a single digit number. It's probably 4 or
Right.
7%, like in
True.
other countries. This was something that you figure out from the get go. Is a KPI, or how do you think? Is it something specifically to Israel? How do you explain this data, which is
So,
very very unique?
yeah, so it has a lot of reasons. First of all, it's a vision of Itzik Abel-Cohen that I just mentioned before. He
Hmm.
decided to go to the online in the grocery world, which wasn't popular, if to say the least, at all in the beginning.
Yes,
Most of the people, I'm talking about 2014, maybe 13, which was still times where people used to say, I'm not sure I want to enter my credit card number into the computer. Who knows who
yes,
will use it, right? You remember
yes.
these times?
That's the era. Yeah.
So in that era, and not only doing online or e-com in general merchandise but in grocery, where most of the people say that first of all it won't work, and for sure it won't make money. So going there was a real. He was a visionary in this aspect, and he decided that the future is there, if you will. He kind of saw the future, and
Hmm.
he decided to invest a lot in terms of technology, in terms of logistics, in terms of and mainly in terms of strategy. Because if you do focus on something, then you can't focus on other things or on many other things, right? So if you decide that your main focus is online, then part of it is deciding not to go to just, for example, to develop new stores, okay? Because you cannot invest everywhere all the time.
Hmm.
And so, first of all, it's a vision and a strategy that the credit is definitely for him. Second, I mean,
And
it's also, sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
The second point is that it's also relate to the fact that Israel is a pretty small country. So although in the physical stores we do have a lot of competitors, I say we, but I mean I'm not there anymore. But yeah, talking, I still feel some emotional connection to the
Obviously,
company.
yeah.
Obviously, after 12 years, it happens. Anyway, Shufersal is its market share in the physical stores is approximately 20% in Israel, and in the online market, it's up to 70%, 70,
Yes.
which is insane, right? I mean, there aren't
Hmm.
many markets that you can reach such a huge market share. So it's the chicken and the egg. Okay, I don't know if we invested so much, and that's why we reached this market share, or we were the first, and then it less other players wanted to be there because we were so let's say strong in this area. But yeah, it's also a matter of the size of the market. I mean, in the end, the market here is not as big as the UK or Germany, or obviously not as
Yes.
US. So it's also part of the thing. So mainly strategy, investment, management focus, but also it relates to the size of the market.
Yes, yes, and I guess you mentioned that being first was very, very important, right? And in order to capture the opportunity, and obviously investing in more and more technologies and customer service processes. And you mentioned a customer-centric organization, right? And
Right.
what do you mean by that? I mean, it's something that you've envisioned, obviously, from the get-go. What it really means?
So even though it may be, it may sound unbelievable that there are many B2C companies that, they have millions of customers, their main business is serving customers. Unfortunately, most of the companies in the world are still not customer focused. By being customer focused, I mean thinking about the customer backwards and not thinking about the organization and going forward to the customer. It means that you have to see the customer, see what they need, what they feel, what they think, and going backwards and design the whole process, the whole technology, the whole journey of the customer from A to Z according to these needs that you have recognized before. Now, it sounds maybe cliche or like pontificating or talking very highly on strategy talks, but no, it's really matter. And I'll give you an example. How many times you've called a call center in a company and you were waiting for 10 minutes and then you reach the agent and they say, no, you've reached the service the sales call center, you need the other one, please take a
Yes.
number and call. And you say, no, I was waiting online, I was calling you, I need you to support me, and you're sending now to do the job that you haven't done because your IVR or this the tool that enabled the company to distribute the calls doesn't work properly. This is
Yeah.
just a simple example for a company that the experience reflects the structure of the company instead of the structure to reflect the experience. So if you define the experience as any touch point with a customer has to be superb, then if the company calls an agent, whether it's a sales agent, service agent, or a technical support or whatever, then they should be able, or I mean, giving them first-hand service, and if not, at least transfer the call so the right guy will give them. And it's just a very simple example. There are many other examples. And in the end, you see that although it's a B2C company, I mean, it's a company that is supposed to be an expert in service, most of the companies are not necessarily there. They are mainly focused on marketing, on commercial, I mean, buying, selling, on operations. A lot of companies are kind of military. I mean, they're a big organization. There are there are the commanders, there are the soldiers, what you have to do, etc. But
Hmm.
no one is really caring about the customer. And I think that the flagship of customer centricity is, of course, Amazon, which puts the customer in its very main slogan to be the
Hmm.
most customer centric company on earth. This is their slogan. This is their motto. And once you put this slogan, you cannot. And there are many stories about Steve Jobs. Jeff Bezos, sorry, about Jeff
Yes.
Bezos, about how he left a chair in the executive boardroom for the customer, right, an empty chair, etc., and many other, let's say, gimmicks or not gimmicks, real actions that are supposed to put the customer in the center of the stage, and not just as a saying, but as a real way of living. And that's in a nutshell what we have tried
Yes.
to do in Shufersal. And I really believe and actually proud that in the Israeli market, I feel that we were very pioneering in this aspect, and we led a real customer service that is different than others in Israel. It's not. It doesn't mean that everything was perfect or still perfect. I mean, there are always a lot to do and where to improve, especially in customer service. But as a notion and as an organization, we were able to do it pretty good.
So if I hear you correctly, what you mean is that the customer-centric organization is primarily related to the customer support experience, right? Like the post-sale experience. Is it like a major cornerstone of everything, right? Customers are calling. It can be also, before they're buying also, but any way they interact with the organization, right? The level of service that they get, this is the foundation of everything, right?
So I think that there is a major difference between customer service, which is what you just mentioned, the post
Mhm.
service, or when I need the company, when I have a problem, then how I reach them, whether with the phone, with a text message, etc., with a chatbot or whatever other tool that
Mhm.
you have. and the experience as a whole, which is the whole journey from A to Z. The
Yes.
all the interactions with the consumer from the very beginning, even when you publish an ad or you give an interview as an executive in the newspaper. It's also a touch point, right? Because you create some expectations, you create some opinions, you create some feelings on the other side's end. So yes, I mean, service, of course. By the way, we took the customer service touch point and we tried to take it to a different level and to say that even if during the journey you experience bad things or you had some problems, you have some bad experiences, when you reach us, we'll use this as an opportunity and not as a cost, not as a threat. Now, it's
Yeah.
not easy because it costs a lot of money. And by the way, I didn't invent this perception. I guess that many of your listeners heard about Zappos, Tony Shea, and the whole story of how to take the call center and to make it, instead of a pain point, to a kind of a happiness or to a bliss, okay, or a
Yeah.
point of touch point with the customer. So yes, it's a very significant part, but it is definitely not the whole the whole experience. The whole experience is, as I said, very long journey, which begins maybe even in your past interaction with the company, right? Because if you have an interaction and you weren't happy, then you have some, you know, bad blood with the company, with the brand, which stays for long. Uh, we can talk a lot about it.
Sure, sure. And you mentioned experience. I think it's a foundational word, right? So companies are creating marketing campaigns around experiences, around feelings, about customer loyalty and how people are connected to the brand. And on the other side, the consumers, they're interested in like more of the foundational things, discounts, features, benefit. What do you think of terms of the Israeli buyer? What works for you in terms of the various marketing aspect? You take the marketing activities from just feelings and emotions to the real nitty gritty stuff of the product, the features, the discounts. What's really working on this spectrum?
So both of us are Israelis, and I would say
Yes.
a word in Hebrew, and then I'll translate it to English. And the word is tachlis. And you know what
Okay.
tachlis means, right? Tachlis
Sure.
means real thing, or cut the bullshit, right?
Not the
So I
bullshit.
think
Yeah.
that if you have to summarize the Israel consumer, that's the main point that I've discovered, that they're tired of marketing BS. They are tired of promises that are totally disconnected from the reality. They don't buy your promises that you will buy this. Whatever consumer goods in your life will become. They want just the real thing. And if I ordered the order, then provide or supply it on time and in the right shape, the right temperature. And if I have a problem, then take responsibility and compensate me for that. And please do not fool me with your nonsense. I try to be as much polite as I can, but you
No,
understand that,
yes. I mean, that's the local like direct approach that is
right?
working here and probably is working very well also for
And
other
and I
Israeli
see, and
companies.
by the way, I don't see a lot of brands that truly, at least behave that they understand this notion, because you still see mainly the banks. By the way, you see many banks, with big ads of how much the
Yeah.
service is great and how much the call center is open even in Saturday night and this and that, and you say, is
Yeah.
this the best promise for the customer? I'm just talking about myself. I mean, for me as a customer of the bank, the only thing that I want with the very not many interactions that I have with my bank is, first of all, to have a good digital interaction, and then once in a while when I need them, I want to have some good service and caring, etc. That's it. I'm not. I don't. I haven't got married to the bank. I'm not looking to. for talking to them at 11 at night, unless really something unusual happens. So I think that still people try to go to do the shortcut and to to use the marketing and the easy way, and not working on the real thing. Working on the real thing is very difficult. It's very
Yes,
hard. I
it's
mean,
very
if
hard.
I have a problem in the fruit and vegetables in Shufersal online, and I see that many customers either complain or just don't buy, fixing it is a big headache. Not to say, open heart surgery in the company, because you have to go to the farmer, and you have to go to the whole supply chain, and you have to check your cooling systems, and you have to check your packages system. I mean, it's a big thing. It's much harder than creating a new ad in the TV, although it costs a lot, but it's easy.
Mhm.
It's easy if you have money. So doing the right thing is easy to say, not easy to execute.
Yeah, yeah, makes a lot of sense. So 2017, you did a big push to online, which was probably the best timing because 2020 with COVID, and you
Right.
actually, I think, increased revenues by like 50% or close to 3 billion new Israeli shekels, right? And now we are in a post-COVID era, inflation and interest rates are a little bit on the higher side. A
Right.
lot of focus on profitability. What are the characteristics today and the major targets for the company?
So yes, we have the period of 2017 until 2019, including 2019, which was the, let's say, the gold rush, right? Again, especially because of the Amazon development in every area, including Israel, which at least there were a lot of rumors that Amazon is going to control or to enter the market, and everyone was just running to become the local Amazon, etc., including us. Then COVID came, and it was just eat as much as you can. I mean, just the question was not what's the demand, but how much you can supply. And
Wow,
thank God since we were investing many years before in infrastructure, because it's not enough that there will be so much, let's say, unlimited demand, right? You have to be able to supply it, and it's not only it's not. I gave an example from the banks. Retail, unlike banks, but in banking, most of the event is here. Is here. It's just in the digital sphere. But when you're talking about retail, the digital experience is just it's just the first step. Then you have to have employees to pick the goods. First of all, you have to have enough inventory, right? You have to have enough inventory. You have to have the warehouses. You have to have the pickers. You have to have the delivery guys. So we have to have a lot of resources to execute this big wave that came with COVID. And as you said, we grew from 2 to 3 billion shekel in a year, which is insane. And it was a very good year in terms of the
that's
financials
billion,
of the
right? With the
company.
B. Yeah,
Billion, yeah, billion.
yeah.
Billion. So it was a 50% growth, which is, as I said, something that once in a lifetime happened. At least that's what we've experienced so far. And then, in the next year, you cannot see the same results. And thank God that the pandemic has
And
declined,
yeah,
and we had to deal with a new world. And although everyone knows that things like that don't take place forever, still people in every bubble behave like and not only in retail. I'm just talking about the world. It's like in the high tech bubble that took place, especially in 2021, right? You saw all the companies are going and hiring people, and getting more and more fat, and then everyone knows that this bubble one day will be blow up, right?
yeah,
But still people do the same thing, and then things go down. So in grocery, since we're in grocery, our main business was grocery. Non-food was 5 to 7% of the business. So it wasn't so significant,
Yeah.
the decline. But yeah, we've experienced less demand. People started again to go to work, to go to trips abroad, etc. And the consumption online went down in approximately 4 to 5% in 2021 and in 2022. And in parallel, the world has started to squeeze because of what you just mentioned, uh, uh, economic situation, recession, inflation. People have less money in their pockets, and they are more, let's say, they will think twice before they'll spend every dollar in your business. And what I saw is many companies, not only in our industry but in the whole business world, going back to basics, going back to operations, going back to customer service, going back. So although the AI revolution is in the background and everyone is talking about AI, but frankly, except for special points here and there, you don't see it deployed so far, at least in
Hmm.
our businesses. And the main thing is that we are going back to the warehouses, how to do it more efficiently, how to do it with less costs, how to get employees, because in these professions, hiring people became a big headache, and therefore we replace some of the infrastructures in instead of people with automation and robotics. And these were the main focuses points of ours in the last, let's say, in 2023. And now, in Israel we have our unique challenges, so I believe that it even became more challenging.
Yes, yes. I wanted to ask about the automated operation. I mean, you've invested a lot in building one of the world's largest automated warehouses, and so what was the driver for that? And share us a little bit more. I mean, because this topic is really, really interesting.
Yeah, so first of all, I remind you that most of the people don't believe that grocery online can make money, can make money, and not just make the top line, but also the bottom line.
The bottom line, yeah.
So this is the challenge that is always in the background. Now, in addition to that, uh, as long as the years passed, sorry. Um, Along the years, we were in more and more challenges to get people to the work, because, especially, by the way, after COVID, hiring people became a big challenge. So the main solution for that, and for the increasing the throughput, right, the productivity of every site, instead of a person to go in every store and just replace the customer, because in the end, when you just do it manually, so instead of the customer coming to the supermarket and picking the goods, you have someone that is doing it, and for them, and then someone has to pick it, to package it, and then someone has to deliver it and carry it to the customer's home. Instead of that, we started to see more than 10 years ago, especially, by the way, in Europe were, especially UK and Germany, more and more companies that started to use automated centers to
Mhm.
replace the manpower in this aspect, but not necessarily in the whole picking journey. Sometimes just in the ambient department, okay, where you don't use refrigerators. Sometimes as a whole, we saw the development of Ocado. Ocado is the biggest online retailer in UK, which is all about automation technologies and robotics. They're very, very successful there, and they not only doing, just like Amazon, not only doing it for them, but they also sell, just like AWS, they sell their systems in other retailers abroad.
Other
Uh,
marketplaces, yeah. Yeah.
right? And we started to understand that if we want to continue to grow, because once you grow, and the CAGR, by the way, of the online in Shufersal since 2013 was 30-40% a year. Okay,
Wow.
so every year you grow in 30-40%. Of course, that every year you grow a bit less because you become bigger, and you
Obviously. Yeah.
want to make sure that in the future you will continue to grow. So the way to do it is to start looking for new technologies that will support you in this project. And by the way, this project was launched in 2018, much before COVID and before the whole
Hmm.
renaissance of the online. And again, a villain of the same person, Itzik, that I mentioned before. He has a lot of credit. By the way, it's also a lot of responsibility because the investment there is huge.
Huge.
Long story short, after 4.5 years, we started one center in Kadima, which is a small town in the Sharon area in Israel, and the biggest center in Modi'in, which was launched exactly a year ago, was under my responsibility as the CEO of the online, the biggest in the world, the biggest center, CFC, Customer Fulfillment Center in the world, 42,000 square meter, 42,000 square meter,
Yeah.
which is huge, which is just a huge building, which is just dedicated to online picking. It's a kind of a logistics center, but unlike most of the logistics centers that are B2B, if you will, I mean, you send from the logistics center to the stores, here it's a B2C, which means that you send the basket with the bags to the customer's house. So everything is more sensitive, right? Everything with B2C
Yeah.
is more sensitive and more and has to be done properly when you're talking about the end customer. It's a big challenge. They're still ramping up. The investment is huge, few millions of shekels investment. I believe that it will take time, but in the end, this is the future of the game. I mean, in the end, you can't just be dependent on the human being to do this very hard and
Yes.
physical work.
Yes. It's obviously expediting deliverables, streamline of processes, getting analytics and data in real time, costs, benefits. Obviously, that's all needs
That's
to come in place and it take years to implement.
yeah.
Great, Svika. So, from your background and experience as a CEO, what are some of the tips that you can provide to other digital leaders out there?
So, although it's a cliche, but focus on the customer, understand the customer needs. Don't try to be over sophisticated. Just try, because it's an ocean of opportunities or of challenges. Depends where you come from, and in the end, if you want to do it properly, you have to do some focus and to decide what is more important than other things. And
Hmm.
in the end, if you decide to focus, for example, on the experience management, and you have to see what are the most, let's say, most important things in your business. Okay. For example, in a grocery business, it's the fresh items, okay, because you can let's say there is more influence on the goods from your side on these items than in just in the ambient, in the regular grocery items. The service or the level of service of the delivery guy, the delivery driver, right? Because in the end, he or she are the only one that meets the customer on your behalf. So you have to understand
Yeah.
this touch point not just as a technical procedure, but as someone that you have to focus on. You have to know what to do, and it's not that easy because not they're not necessarily under your
Yeah.
control. Sometimes there are third parties, employees, etc. Uh, so you have to know where to invest and just be there. And don't. And another tip is don't over focus. don't overestimate the digital experience, because in the end, life is a real experience. So, at least in my business, in the grocery, in the retail business, most of the experience, yeah, I mean, it's nice if your search engine is better, and if your navigation experience is good, and you got a good feeling of the item when you're experiencing the app. But in the end, if the real thing, if the temperature of the goods, if the let's say the treatment of the delivery guy, if the time, if they don't come on time, etc., other main, let's say, most important factors in the experience are ruined, no one will remember your digital positive experience. So, and again, therefore, you have to know what are the most important parts of the journey, and then just laser focus there, and try to give an answer also to other things. Of course, we're not. I mean, you have to work at the same time also on other areas, but in the end, you have to be very focused on where your main efforts are.
Yes, interesting. So you say just prioritize things and focus on the main things that are making difference, right? And try to improve processes and provide more more.
Another thing, if I may, is just hire people that are good, that are better than you, at least
Yeah.
in their areas. Don't be afraid. Have the self confidence to work with them, and you'll enjoy from that.
Yes. Yes. Great, Vika. So we are the last question that I ask all my guests. Okay, so I ask them about a fun fact about themselves that most of their, let's say, professional network are not aware of.
Fun fact. Okay, so I try to think what is first of all, when I was a child, I was acting in a TV program. So I
Wow,
started my
really?
entertainment. Yeah, it's something that I still joke with my friends, because it has nothing to do with my. I mean, I'm not such a joker, such a stand-up star now, but at least when I was a child, I was attempting. These days, except for career, I actually like to create content like you do. I had a podcast by myself,
Okay.
all around, obviously around experience management. I actually had 10 episodes, and then the thing that happens to most of the people happened to me as well, that I wasn't consistent, because I had a
Yeah.
lot of challenges in my. It was just the beginning of my role as a CEO of the online, and I was too busy. But I will get back to it. I like to create content, also written content. So I write a lot, and this is, let's say, my place of reflection and of just, expressing myself. So any kind of content creation, I really believe in it, and that's also the place to congratulate you for what you do, not only managing a company, but also to do this service, by the way, service to the community. So also
Yes.
congrats to you.
Wow, Trika, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. Thank you for all the knowledge and insights. I wish you all the best and the new pursuit, right? And the next roles that you are obviously working on. And uh, please start create. I mean, 10 is like the magic number for podcast episodes. Something happens on the 10th episode that I think more than 90% of the hosts are stopping for some reason. But yeah, I hope I inspired you to go back podcasting, and obviously would love to read more about anything that you have to share. So really appreciate the time, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Aitan. It was a pleasure, and really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.